Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hillside Public School. My name is Jim Brooks, and I am principal of this school. Previously known as Hillside Middle School, we've recently went through a significant renovation and addition as part of an accommodation and review that saw the consolidation of 3 neighborhood schools. We are excited to be going into our second year as Hillside Public School. We are proud of the premier learning facility we are so grateful to have, but more importantly, we are proud of the work we are doing together every day to foster a positive, safe, inclusive school climate. At Hillside, we support and welcome diversity amongst all learners. Our school's mission is to inspire happiness and success in an engaged and connected learning community. At Hillside, we work together to ensure every student is supported and inspired to succeed in a culture of high expectations. I would like to thank the Honourable Minister Hunter and her team for providing us with the opportunity to showcase and highlight our collaborative artwork and legacy pieces that mean so much to our community. I would also like to thank the following guests for joining us today: Minister Sousa, Trustee Brad McDonald, Trustee Kathy McDonald, Vice Chair and Trustee Suzanne Nurse, Director of Education Peter Joshua, Associate Director of Instruction and Equity Support Services Pauline Grewal, Superintendent of Education Nina Jaswal, Vice Principal Brenda Gibson, and Farrell Hall is Manager of Workplace Equity with our board. I would like to introduce and welcome our new Director of Education Peter Joshua to share greetings on behalf of the board. As a Peel Board graduate and with a 27-year career at Hamilton Wentworth District School Board, Peter brings a commitment to achieving student success, passion for education, and optimistic and inspiring leadership to the role of director. Please join me in welcoming Director of Education Peter Joshua.
Good morning. Just before I start, I wanted to acknowledge that our wonderful principal, we discovered, we have a connection. Principal Brooks happened to have been a student of mine when I first started teaching in Hamilton, so I'm so very pleased. This, to me, is what student success is all about, when we see our students growing and thriving and succeeding, so congratulations. And good morning to everyone here, and thank you for inviting me to bring greetings on behalf of the Peel District School Board at this morning's announcement, a very exciting announcement on equity and diversity. And as Principal Brooks mentioned, I'm very pleased to have a number of my board colleagues here in attendance. Pauline Grewal, my Associate Director of Equity and Instructional Support Services, Trustee Brad McDonald, also Trustee Kathy McDonald, and our Vice Chair, Trustee Suzanne Nurse, as well as Superintendent of Education, as Principal Brooks mentioned, Nina Jaswal, are here, and a number of our staff who support us in the great work that we do in Peel. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning to welcome the Honourable Mitzi Hunter, Minister of Education, Patrick Case, Assistant Deputy Minister of Education for the Equity Secretariat, and Charles Sousa, Member of Provincial Parliament for Mississauga South and Ontario's Minister of Finance, and everyone else who is joining us here today for the ministry. So wonderful to have you here. The Minister's Office and the Peel District School Board, I'm proud to say that we share an important goal and vision. That goal is to provide high-quality education to the students in Peel, to create learning spaces where each and every student can achieve their own personal excellence. And building that kind of school environment will always, always be our aim. And we see this every day when we go into our schools. Wonderful. I would like to thank the Hillside Public School students, the staff, the parents, certainly Principal Brooks and your team, and community members for your dedication and tremendous efforts in celebrating the diversity of your school community and our school board. We are pleased to be here today to recognize and thank you for supporting the important work around equity and inclusion that takes place in our classrooms and our schools each and every day. The Peel Board looks forward to working collaboratively with the Minister's Office and our schools in the months ahead and years ahead, quite frankly, and providing excellence in education to the children of Peel. And on behalf of the Peel Board, I thank you for being here today. Please join me in welcoming my colleague, Pauline Grewal, Associate Director of Instructional and Equity Support Services. Pauline has led many of our key projects around equity and inclusion, and is truly a champion for inclusive education. Welcome, Pauline.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. I'm pleased to be here today to bring greetings on behalf of our senior administration with the Peel District School Board. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this very special announcement that brings us together to continue our journey to recognize all of our work, our collective work around equity and inclusion. The Peel Board is one of Canada's largest public school boards, and it continues to grow as communities in Peel region expand. As a board, we serve more than 155,000 students in 257 schools in a community just of about 1.3 million people. Peel is one of the highest areas of settlement for newcomers in Canada. And just this morning, I saw a new family being welcomed by Hillside staff. And I know they felt like $1 million as they came into the door and as mom left the kids. So thank you, Principal Brooks, for that. We have more than 50 languages spoken by Peel students and their families. And in fact, in some of our secondary schools, there are over 100 different languages between parents and the communities that we serve. The diversity that is represented by our student, staff, and community is extensive. And as we look at our board's strategic plan, the Plan for Student Success, one of the commitments that we have made is around equity and inclusion, and that is to achieve inclusion for all through continued progress on equity. In that statement, equity is the work and inclusion is our goal. In fact, I believe it is some of the most important work that we do. It is not work that is safe. It is not work that is easy or where we will always achieve consensus. We know that. Yet as leaders, it's a clear message that we know it's the right work. And our Director of Education, new Director of Education, I think, talked about that very clearly in his starting point address last week. I'm proud of the work, that continuous progress towards inclusion. Today is another example of that crucial work that we do as educators to continue our journey around inclusion. Through our unwavering commitment to equity and inclusion, I know that each of us, so everybody in here, each of us will continue to help our students, and they're here joining us today, some of them, and staff learn, work and develop in environments that are safe, that are equitable, that are inclusive, and are respectful and nurturing for all. So on behalf of the Peel Board, thank you for being here today. And with that, I get to introduce please join me in welcoming Charles Sousa, who is our Member of Provincial Parliament for the riding of Mississauga South and Ontario's Minister of Finance. So welcome.
Thank you, Colleen, and all of you for being here. All our special guests, Principal Brooks and Vice Principal Gibson, thank you for hosting us and allowing us to be here today. And it's great school, newly renovated, Hillside Public School, the additions, the renovations. In fact, it's truly a great place for kids to learn and grow and succeed. And it's fitting. It's fitting from what we saw already today with the artwork presented by the students outside. It's fitting because it really does lead the way for some of the work that we as government are doing. The kids get it. They get it by what we've seen in some of the artwork that's been presented today with us around inclusivity, around being safe, around being encouraging and welcoming, and about encouraging one another to succeed. It's certainly an important area for us to ensure that we play together, we learn together, we succeed together, and these are key principles of our province for our collective future success. We're committed, certainly, to ensuring that every child has equal opportunity to succeed. It's why it's a real pleasure for me to introduce the Honourable Minister, who I know firsthand the extraordinary work she's done about leading the way for greater success. As President and CEO of Civic Action here in Toronto, for the work she's done as Associate Minister of Finance around the Ontario Retirement Pension Plan, ensuring that we all have greater success as we proceed forward. And because of that championship and some of that leadership role that we enabled other provinces to ensure that we enhance CPP for that greater benefit. I am also a graduate of the Peel Board of Education. I attended primary school here. I attended middle school here, and I attended high school here. And as I was growing up in our community, it has changed. And it has changed for the better. There are more people who recognize the strengths that we all bring forward. The variety of our cultures, the variety of our diversity is also a great benefit and a great opportunity for us to do even better and act as a beacon to other parts of the world. And as my kids grew up in the same system, within the same community, they were the ones that embraced it even better than I did. And I recognize through them how much work and how much promise the province of Ontario has going forward. And I congratulate the tremendous work of all of you, of the Ministry of Education, and you, Mitzi Hunter, for the leadership role that you've taken in order to go forward on some of the work that's being presented today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honourable Minister of Education, Mitzi Hunter.
Thank you so much. You know, it's wonderful to be here, and I have to say, being here with you as my colleague, my friend, and mentor really is really very, very, very special. So thank you for that very warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Bonjour, bonjour. It's such a pleasure to be here today. It's a very exciting day. I really feel that, and I want to say thank you to the students for that wonderful welcome and introduction to your school, to the history of your school, and how it has come together. I especially enjoyed seeing the artwork where every person in the school had an opportunity to contribute to it. And it really is a powerful symbol of belonging. And it really makes it real for people. So I just thought that was a really excellent way, Principal Brooks for showing students that they belong through that art. So I'm very happy to be here today. I want to start off by acknowledging that we are located on the traditional territories of Indigenous people dating back countless generations, and I want to show respect for their contributions. I want to recognize the role of treaties in what is now Ontario, because hundreds of years after those treaties were signed, they are relevant to all of us today. Je suis heureuse d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. Thank you to everyone here at Hillside Public School for welcoming us to the Peel region, a very special region, and as Pauline has said, one of the most diverse places in Ontario and in Canada. And I think you're handling that diversity very, very well. I am very pleased to be here alongside Minister Sousa, Patrick Case, Denise Dwyer, our other Assistant Deputy Ministers here as well. And I'm happy to be here with some of the education partners and community members who have come, I think you've come to witness this occasion. For very good reason. Many of you have been working on the issue of equity and inclusion for your whole careers. And so I'm very pleased that you're joining us today and that you're here to really witness the next phase in our vision for equity in education in Ontario. I want to say a special thank you to the leadership of the Peel Region District School Board, because I know that the work that you're doing is not easy, but you are so focused and so relentless. And I just want to say thank you to the trustees who are here, to your entire board and leadership for the work that you are doing. Since becoming Minister of Education, my goal, I want the students to know this. So as minister, I have a goal, and the goal is to visit one school each week. I have to say that in my first year, I was able to meet that goal. I actually exceeded it by visiting 67 schools. And given that this is the first week of school, I've been in many schools this week. It's been a great start to the school year. And the reason I do this, because I know that it's important to have a first-hand look at how students are learning. When you're in a school, you really get to see that, right? Looking at our teacher. You really get to see that, to see the school environment, to see things like the beautiful artwork. I always slow down in the hallways and look at the students' work on all the walls. Because schools are places where students must be welcomed and accepted. And really, it has to reflect who they are as people. So I've traveled to a number of communities across Ontario and have seen how educators, staff, and students have come together. And when I say educators, I mean everyone involved in the school community. And that's why I appreciated that final piece of artwork at Hillside, because our custodians, our office staff, our teachers in the classroom, those who support our students in our education system are all a part of our school community. And I see that Ontario schools are embracing the diversity that is within our schools. So this week, of course, being the first week of school, brought back a few memories for me, and even with your story, Minister Sousa, in terms of, being a part of this board from elementary all the way through, was very much a reminder. So when I was in grade 4, I was in the Durham District School Board at a school, Glengrove Public School. And I remember that my teacher, Mrs. Kumar, she opened up a whole new world, just in terms of the elements that she chose to bring into the classroom. I remember her doing lessons on other countries in the world. And how thrilled was I when one of those lessons was on Jamaica, the place of my birth. And Mrs. Kumar was someone who definitely expanded my world beyond what I knew in Durham. At the time, I thought Scarborough was the big city. So, educators have that role of allowing students to really see themselves in their learning, to build confidence, and to build a sense that they belong. It's a very important aspect of the work. So what I know now is how important it was for me and all of my classmates to see ourselves reflected in what was being taught. I felt engaged in what I was learning, and it fostered that sense of belonging in the classroom and in school. And this supported my entire well-being. And I know that my family could see that confidence as it was being developed. I strongly believe that we must continue to deepen the connections between achievement, well-being, and equity. These must be inextricably linked, almost like a braid, just wound together. And we must put the student experience at the center of all that we do. We must be deliberate about making equity, well-being at the center of achieving excellence. This week, we have begun a new journey to do just that. On the first day back to school, I had the privilege to announce investments to strengthen well-being supports for all students, educators, and staff. Yesterday, I was with the Premier at another school to announce that we're taking a fresh look at Ontario's curriculum from kindergarten through to grade 12, incorporating transferable skills like communications, critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. And really creating spaces for teachers to pursue deeper learning in the classroom. We also shared our plans to engage our partners to review report cards as well as assessments. Today, on the third day back to school, I am here to reaffirm my commitment to fostering an education system where all students, parents, staff, and members of the school community are treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, ability, minority language, or any other factor. I am proud to announce the launch of Ontario's Education Equity Action Plan. Through this 3-year plan, we will work with our partners to identify and remove systemic barriers and discriminatory biases from schools, classrooms, and our education system. A key first step was creating the Equity Secretariat earlier this year, the Education Equity Secretariat. And you will hear from Patrick Case in a few minutes about his work on our path forward. While there has been much progress over the years, unfortunately, some students continue to face barriers. To quote Malala Yousafzai, "We cannot succeed when half of us are held back." Right now, we know that the status quo is not working for all students. Not all students have the same opportunities to succeed. We know, for example, that a disproportionate number of students from particular groups are overly represented in the number of students who do not graduate. This is unacceptable, and it needs to change. Successfully implementing Ontario's Education Equity Action Plan will mean putting an equity and human rights perspective at the forefront of the work we do in education. It means cultivating inclusive environments in classrooms, schools, and school boards. It means giving all young people the choice and power to fulfill their dreams and realize their full potential. Among the initiatives intended to address systemic barriers in our system is a commitment to collaborate with our partners on a new approach to the academic and applied programs in grade 9, so that all students are supported in achieving their goals and choosing the right pathway, whether that is work, college, apprenticeship, or university. Realizing our vision will require everyone working at the table, including system leaders, teachers, education workers, students, and community partners. Together, we can make sure that all students have equitable access to the incredible opportunities within our great province. Everyone in our publicly funded education system must feel engaged and included. By working in partnership, we can take important steps to support student achievement, equity, and well-being, and enable all students to succeed both personally as well as academically. I strongly believe that education is the doorway. Education is the key to empowering students and providing them with opportunities to reach their full potential in life. I want to quote Senator Murray Sinclair in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. He says that education heals. It has that ability. I would like to introduce our Assistant Deputy Minister, Patrick Case, a respected human rights specialist and lawyer, former Ontario Human Rights Commissioner, and someone who is a great addition to our leadership team in the Ministry of Education for this time. So welcome, Patrick Case. Thank you, merci, and Dutch.
Thank you very much, Minister. Very generous. And thank you to the board and to the school for allowing us to use your facilities today. So, the Education Equity Secretariat opened its doors on May the 15th, and we've been pretty busy, right, since then, working to create this plan that's before you today. But we didn't work in isolation in the creation of the plan. We worked with partners in education across the province, as well as with folk from ministries across the government, in order to come up with what we think is, and what we believe is a plan that can move us, well, to use the an English football saying, to move the ball upfield, right? That's what this plan is intended to do, is move the ball upfield as far as equity is concerned. So there are four main areas in the plan that I want to speak about. The first one of those, of course, has to do with schools and classroom practices. The second has to do with leadership, governance, and human resources. The third has to do with data collection and the use of data. And the fourth has to do with cultural change. So with respect to those four areas, insofar as school and classroom practices are concerned, there are a number of things that we think will make some difference, and a positive difference, with respect to student achievement and moving towards equity. One of those is the widespread implementation of culturally responsive and relevant pedagogy in schools. That methodology rests on using the lived experiences of students as they're brought into classrooms. In my office, when we started up, we set a goal. I know that ministers don't like surprises. This is a good surprise. We set a goal of having 12 school boards sign up to work with us on culturally responsive and relevant curriculum pedagogy. Last week, at the beginning of the week, we had 6. The goal was to have 12 by October. We've got 25. 25 boards. 18 of those boards are new to this work. Right? As well as pedagogy, some of the work that we're going to be focusing on also has to do, as the Minister referred to, with grade 9. Ontario is the only province that has students make the kinds of decisions that they have to make at this point in their lives. We want to change that. That's work that's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort as we work with partners in education in the affiliates and various other, and of course with communities. But that work has to start now. It's a structure, streaming, that needs to be addressed. But bear in mind that even if we remove the structure itself, that some of the mindsets that result in young people being streamed may still continue, and that we have to work on that as well. In relation to leadership, governance, and human resources, these are 3 really critical areas. With respect to leadership, we are committed to working with partners in education to change the picture with regard to the physical picture with regard to leadership in education. As we look around the province, it's quite clear that in relation to some of our leadership pools, they are not representative of the makeup of the province. That can change, and it will change. In relation to governance, it is the case that trustees have had much education in relation to governance and ethics. What we want to do is to bring a completely different focus to that trustee education process and include equity as a feature in that education. So training and education in relation to governance, ethics, and equity, and the interplay with equity, is of critical importance for this entire province. Now, when I'm speaking about this entire province, I'm not talking about equity in relation to downtown Toronto or downtown Mississauga. What I'm talking about is equity as it arises wherever it arises in this province. You know, there's a north, right? And the issues in the north are very different from those in the south of the province. Even in the south of the province, as we go from side to side, you can see that there are major differences. In Avon-Maitland, to the west of here, we know that a large number of Mennonite families send their children to public schools. And there are equity issues that arise within that context. Those equity issues must be addressed as well. With regard to human resources, it is clear to many people who send their children to school that, as yet, there are imbalances with respect to the teaching population, with respect to the representation of visible and racial minorities and other equity-seeking groups in education. That, too, must change. And we're working with partners, and will we continue to work with partners in education to bring about some of those changes. There are a number of barriers in this area. One of them is the fact that the faculties of education have seemed to have withdrawn their support for using the services of secondees from boards of education to the ministry. We think that those secondees are incredibly important because what they bring with them is the lived experiences of the children within their schools. We want to restore that pipeline so that at the point of education of teachers, that equity content is re-injected into the process. On data collection, integration, and reporting, again, another incredibly important field. We must move throughout the province to evidence-based decision-making when it comes to work in relation to students and our communities. It's been too long now that only a few boards have been engaged in this endeavor. And at this time, one of the things that I can tell you is that there are 15 boards who have come together to begin to do this work in Ontario. Another surprise and another bit of good news. Yesterday, we received a phone call from another board saying, we want in. So, you can see that with respect to the pedagogical work that we're going to be doing, with regard to the data gathering, the time has come, right? The time has come, and people are getting on board. In respect to organizational culture and change, this plan is not entirely outward-facing in the sense of, well, you boards, you've got to get your act together. It's also inward-facing and looks at the ministry as well. We've begun to do the work in the ministry of thinking about how we're going to conduct a better and deeper survey of the workforce of the ministry. As well as that, we'll be looking throughout the ministry's policies and practices on issues having to do with barriers to inclusion of people who are not represented within the ministry workforce. That work, as I said, has just begun. So watch out for information on that as it unfolds. Finally, with regard to the ministry's work, the ministry has quite a number of advisory groups and some quite high-level ones. The ministry has moved already within the last 2 weeks to change the representation on one of its most high-level advisory groups to include members of diverse communities. And so I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take questions from people. Just to say, however, that with regard to the accountability for completing the action items in the plan, that responsibility lies with the ministry and its component divisions and branches, as well as with the partners in education.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much, Patrick, for all of the work. And, I really love those surprises where you're talking about engagement and you're talking about boards really embracing this work. And I'm really thrilled to hear that. So with that, we're happy to take any questions from the media. If there are any.
It says in the Equity Action Plan that while we've achieved much for students, we continue to observe poor outcomes for disproportionate numbers of students from low-income environments, racialized students, and other categories of students. First of all, how do you know that if you haven't been collecting that data yet? And the other thing, though, is how significant are these gaps? Can you try and put it in terms that people can understand?
Thank you for your question. And so we do see the disparities in the numbers that we do collect. There are certain boards, like the Toronto District School Board, that has been collecting disaggregated data for a number of years. We have other studies that have been done to look at data. We've just received a report from York University that also confirms the direction that we want to take with respect to the collection of data, so that we have evidence-based decision making around how our programs are affecting students. I think that's important, not on an individual basis, but as a group. We also we know because of the students themselves, and we talk to students, and we talk to educators, and this is challenging. And I think that the time has come. The status quo is not acceptable. We have to ensure that our system of education supports all students. And I think that that's what's important in terms of what we're identifying here, are where there are systemic barriers that do affect the outcomes for students. We have to look at those barriers. For instance, the applied and the academic in choices that are being made. Is that the right time to make that choice, transitioning from grade 8 to grade 9? Grade 9 year is such a critical transition year. We want to see that year used for career pathway explorations, because we know that disproportionately students who are currently in the applied stream pretty much don't necessarily make it through to graduation or to post-secondary choices. And that's an outcome that we can't accept. So these changes that we're proposing today in our Education Equity Action Plan are really designed to support students to succeed. And that's the outcome that we want to see. Regardless of their socioeconomic background or any background, we want to see that they have an opportunity to succeed in our system of education. Patrick?
I might also add that with regard to some groups of students and their placement in particular programs, merely going to the classrooms will tell you that there are imbalances, that there's an overrepresentation of some students from black communities, students from some other racialized communities in the applied programs within the province. So we know too that though those programs are really, applied programs and the content is really important, we know too that the advantages that are gained by students in advanced programs and going on to college and universities better prepares students to be citizens within society.
So the transfer of how we protect the data and make sure that there's a process in place for collecting the data, reviewing the data. I mean, the Ontario Ministry of Education, we currently collect student data, and what we're talking about here today is an enhancement to that data to be able to capture other types of information that will help us in our decision making. But we will of course respect all of the areas of privacy. This is not about reporting and sharing individualized data with regards to students, and I want to be very clear about that. It's not the purpose of this type of data, no.
Can I just add a little bit to that issue? The boards that have come together now and are working on approaches to data gathering are also working on that very issue, the issue of the security of the data sets, what to gather from students. And one of the things that you should know is that all the boards are not technically in the same place when it comes to their ability to collect data. So part of this exercise has to do with raising everybody up to a particular level so that when we actually do speak with each other, we're comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. So all of those questions that you've raised are being discussed at the table.
I want to also just add that we're not doing this in isolation in the Ministry of Education. We have an anti-racism directorate as well that is tasked with very much the collection of disaggregated data across various ministry areas, and we are working very closely with them to have that standardization and consistency. Mike?
What's your specific commitment on the grade 9 applied versus academic choice? Looks like it says you're going to reconsider it, but are you committed to changing the timing of when it is that students choose academic or applied, or are you going to maybe consider eliminating the difference between academic and applied? What's your commitment?
So our commitment is to look at grade 9. We believe that that's the critical year in student transition, where career pathway exploration and choice for students, whether they aspire to go to a college, apprenticeship, university, or right into the workforce. We want that year to really engage students in their learning and in their choices. We're going to take our time working together with our education partners to come up with the answer to what is the solution with respect to academic and applied. What we know is that the status quo is unacceptable because of the outcomes that we've seen that is not really supporting many groups and particular groups of learners. We want to make sure that all students have a really fair opportunity to succeed when they're in secondary school. So Ontario is the only province that currently has that type of streaming occurring in grade 9. We don't believe it's the right year, but in terms of what the best recommendation is, we want to we don't want to presuppose that outcome. We want to take the opportunity to engage our education partners and to come back with a solution and a recommendation. There are other ideas being presented, such as desemestering as a potential solution. So we want to make sure we consider all of the options. Okay, so we'll take these last two. Go ahead.
So how is it going to work? Are you going to survey all students, and from what age are you going to collect the data?
So the age that they collect the data.
Another issue that's being worked on. So it makes sense for a number of reasons to be surveying students from grade 4 upwards and not below those grades, because self-identification becomes an issue, right, for children up to grade 3. So that's one of the issues that's absolutely on the table and has been on the table for discussion at the ministry for some time in other contexts. Right.
Thank you. And Jamie, a last question to you.
Minister, I got two questions actually. The first one is we've received a lot of controversies surrounding sexual education and what grades appropriate fields. Are you going to be looking at the sex ed curriculum as far as this overall review?
So the health and physical education curriculum and the sex ed portion of that is not part of the work that we're doing as part of the equity, the Education Equity Action Plan. But what I do want to say is that Ontario was one of the only provinces that had not updated our health and physical education curriculum. It was something like 16 or 17 years. It was dangerously out of date. And we made the commitment that the health and the safety of our students was a priority, and we needed to update our health and physical education curriculum. And we've done that. It's been in our schools now. I believe it's the second year now that we've completed that. And I want to say that for parents and individuals that perhaps had questions about the curriculum, every opportunity was available to engage with principals, with teachers in the classroom. If there was the need to, to remove a student from a particular portion of that curriculum, that flexibility was there. Part of what we have in our Ontario's equity and inclusive education strategy is that boards have to have policies in place for accommodation. That's something that has been in place since 2009, and I'm very pleased to see that Ontario's school boards have policies in place when it comes to accommodation, and boards have that ability to ensure that schools are able to adapt and to be flexible when those choices are required, whether it's for religious accommodations or in other ways. Those policies are in place in Ontario's school boards. We want everyone coming to our schools, regardless of their background, regardless of ability, regardless of any factor of that individual, we want them to feel included. We want Ontario schools to be a place that all students feel safe and included.
The second question is, pretty through these, York District School, or there's a school in York District that is charging $30 volunteer $30 fee to go towards the school, and as a result of charging this fee or paying this fee, you get your timetable earlier than normal schools that don't pay the fee, and you get access to guidance counselors before. We have a viewer comment to tip us off to that. Is that right, that if you pay and afford if you can afford to get your timetable earlier and you can afford to pay to get your access to the guidance counselors earlier, so if you have to change courses, it just seems like it's a two-tier education system as a result, that people have to pay for access to guidance counselors.
And that's a question that we can direct to the York Region District School Board. But what we know is that this is a very busy time of year for parents and for schools. We heard this morning that there was new registration right here at Hillside, and parents are coming in to get that information. Our school boards have to have policies in place, and schools themselves have to be able to implement those policies, and that would be something to take a look at directly with the York board.
Should you be paying for or being allowed to pay for advanced information which a student that can afford it doesn't get in a disadvantaged class?
I mean, one of the aspects of our education system in Ontario, and I always talk about this, that we have one of the best education systems in Ontario. Our publicly funded education system, where almost 95% of students in Ontario attend. It's about making sure everyone has free access to the best education possible. Mr. Sousa?
I just want to pick up on this. You don't need the cameras for this one. The public education system in Ontario is by far one of the best in the world. It has, and we know that. I know from firsthand experience as new immigrants who came to Canada back in the 50s and 60s, we were part of a cultural group that faced barriers, and we were streamlined not to in fact graduate from high school but get to work. And some of that work that's being done today with the Education Action Plan, Equity Plan, will enable all cultural communities to have equal success, regardless of their ethnicity or their new status within Canada. But I want to say this. The public education system, for me, has been also very special. I met my wife in junior kindergarten and SK back at Ryerson Public School in Toronto. And in fact, today we're celebrating our wedding anniversary. So there you go. School works for many other reasons as well. Take care, everybody. Thank you all.